Britney topping the charts, and the Backstreet Boys well on their way to becoming the biggest boy band of all time, Sweden found a roundabout way to pop superstardom. Instead of exporting pop superstars, they were generating globally recognized producers, and those producers were importing the talent.
Everything changed after that.
Yeah. So there were quite a few artists like NSYNC, Celine Dion, and Bon Jovi.
It was like a perfect playground to do music.
Despite starting to attract some of the biggest artists in the world, Dennis Pop made sure Cheiron was still a fun place to work.
We first came to Stockholm here and recorded with Dennis and Max, and it's a great experience. It's very laid back, it's very easy. They're great to work with.
I mean, they're a great bunch of producers. They're really close friends of ours, and they're great to work with. I mean, we'd work with them forever if we could. So, you know, they're putting out really good songs. I mean, we're playing games, and our next single, As Long As You Love Me, so definitely.
These guys, Dennis Pop and Max Martin, do you think they were in some kind of alters, or they were them as we know them?
I think they're them, yeah.
Okay. When you listen to these guys' interviews, like both of them, but especially Max Martin, he comes off as this soft, creative, sensitive kind of guy. You would never think he's anything, you know, evil or sinister or anything. Like I've seen like maybe 3 or 4 interviews with him.
Okay. Max Martin is a nice guy, actually, and I can tell you that from personal experience. That's what I remember about him for the most part, is he's pretty nice. But what I can say though is like most people wouldn't eat meat if they ever had to kill a cow. If they actually had to kill a cow or a chicken or whatever, they wouldn't eat it, right? Like they wouldn't do it. But since somebody else does it for them, they eat cheeseburgers and whatever. And it's kind of like that with him, I think, where like I don't think he really saw that part of it. His job. He probably knew what was going on, but like that he wasn't. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, he was like kind of a surface level person,
connecting all the dots on, like literally, like he is the, you know what I mean? He's the one who puts out the songs and works with everybody on the surface, and you know,
he's like the front guy, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I do remember about him too is I have a song which I'll actually send it to you for this, maybe so you can show people. But I have a song that I showed them, which what they're supposed to do when I make a song is they're supposed to run it through the computer, and if they run it through the computer and it can be a hit song, they're supposed to go back in time, find them, and basically make sure I don't write the song and then keep it.
Wow.
Which is really fucked up for me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, which explains a lot of my life now that I know that. But I showed him that song, this song, at the computer, and I explained what it was about and everything. And it was a song about my trauma twin, and just about how every morning, you know, that's the first thing I think of, and I'll never forget her, basically. And so I told him that, and I showed him the song, and he made him cry. And like it literally made him cry. I remember him telling me, "We're not going to put that one in the computer. That's yours. It's your song. I'm not gonna take that one from you. You get to keep it."
Wow.
I don't know why that song, out of all of them, but that was the one that he's like, "You got to keep that song. It's yours."
I see. So he is not 100% like evil, you're saying?
No. Why would he? You know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't have done that. And with Dennis, I don't know.
Right.
It's like, you know, I have fond memories of these guys, but then I also know that I was a child, know that they were doing sexual stuff to Britney. Why would I think anything of them not doing it to me? It's like I don't want to go into those memories. I don't want to believe they're real, but I know they're real. They're some of the first ones to come back of this stuff. Was the fact that they're doing weird sexual stuff. So this is where I'm at with it. Is I'm here to tell the truth as I can tell it.
So they definitely know about the portal technology, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
definitely-
Like I said, Dennis Pop even kind of talked about
Yeah,
it in an interview
right.
one time.
Yes. So they definitely know about this part. They definitely know about the space colonies, right? Because you said they were at Centurion
Yeah,
5.
yeah. And so I can tell you too about the computer, the recording studio, and like how I told you didn't put the song in the computer, right?
Yes.
Well, how that worked was there's a computer, a quantum computer that you could put the songs in, and it would tell you where the song would be successful, where it would do well, what planet, what era, what year to put it out, suggest people that you could put the song out through, for real. Every song you made, that's how it was. And one of the most hilarious ones is the song "Pump Out the Jams." The story of that song is hilarious because we were so fucked up when we made that song, we didn't remember making it.
Oh my God.
And then we turned on the recording studio the next day and pump up the jams, pump it up, keep on pumping. And we're just like, what? And the computer's like, hit, like all over the place. And we're like, this song, what? We're literally just saying pump up the jams over and over again. What the fuck? It was hilarious. Couldn't believe it. You literally forgot, because the thing is the machine, so it's important to explain, the machine would like give us whatever drugs we wanted, like anything we wanted, and it wouldn't. And
like a replicator.
Yeah, like a replicator, and it knew if like it was becoming to the point where it was detrimental, it would wean you off. Like, so if like you were doing for real like heroin or something, right? It'd be like if you're getting to the point where you're just like a junkie now, like what? Like it'd be like it could tell you that, and it'd be like wean you off of it and be like, you're done, not gonna give you anymore. But the crazy thing is, you remember how I told you the beginning with the powder, how Dennis Pop was like, oh, this powder hooks you up to the computer. Well, that stuff is super duper addictive. And you have super duper wildly painful like seizures if you don't have it. And that was how they kept you at the recording studio. There was nothing that you could leave whenever you wanted to, but that drug, you couldn't get it anywhere else. Yeah, and so you want the story of blinding lights. I can tell you that now. I can tell you where it comes from. That's actually a pretty great story, I think. It kind of helps you appreciate the song more, probably as a listener, once you know it. That song's about how I was at the recording studio and I was alone for a long time. Like sometimes I'd work with other people, sometimes I'd let people visit me, but I was alone a lot, and I was just lonely, man. And I just wanted to see somebody else, so I started saving up in this little jar that I had, little tiny pebbles, like a corner of the powder they would give me. And it made me feel like ill at first, like it was bad, really painful, but I plowed through it. Eventually got to the point where I needed a little bit less of that stuff. So when I'd save up the jar, so then once I had the jar with me, I could leave and go somewhere.
I see.
Yeah, and I actually did that. And basically there was like a train, like a subway and a mountain there. And like I just got on it. It was all AI, and it just brought me to where I wanted to go. And then once you get off there, there's like highways and stuff like that. And there was like these little white electric cars. And I was like, God, I hope this works. And I got in one and tried to drive it. And sure enough, it fucking worked. And let me drive it. Because that's just kind of how they were. Like, it was like more of a resort planet. So nothing really costed money there or anything like that. So just let me drive it. And I was driving, and I just remember like being like, wow, like I'm fucked up from this stuff. I'm doing a little bit more of it than I usually do because I have this giant jar of it. And I'm just like, and I just remember like the fucking I'm on this like skyway, like in the sky, and this their cities are like really concentrated because of the jungles. They don't want to have to build out any more than they need to. It's really hard. So they're like huge. Like these cities are massive, and there's like highways in the sky and shit. And I'm just like driving it. And I'm just like,
blinded by the lights.
Like, yeah, blinded, but literally like it's hard for me to drive. And I'm in the middle of this fucking highway in the sky, and all of a sudden you're like the sound of the electric engine turning off. I'm like, no, what? No, what? And it turns off, and the car kind of sinks into the ground, and I'm just like, oh God. And I just get out of the car and I look around, and I'm just like, it's like miles before I get anywhere. Like miles, like in the sky. And I'm just like, what the fuck do I do now? Because it's also miles back to where the cars were too. And I'm just like, man. And then so this Boba Fett shit that was like black came out and was like, hey, you're an authorized person in an authorized zone. It's like, put your hands up. So I did. These guys got me. They like asked what to do with me, and they just like brought me back. Like they brought me to like the jail at first, and they like didn't know what to do with me. And then they like it wasn't that long, maybe 2-3 hours I think, before like I was back on the same ship. They brought me back to the recording studio, and they're like, look, when we're gonna give you some leniency because no one actually ever technically told you that you can't leave here, but we're gonna tell you now. You can't leave here. You're supposed to stay here, and we're not gonna punish you this time, but next time we will. And you don't want to find out what the punishment is. Just don't leave here, okay? Can you understand that? Is that cool? They were nice to me about it. I was like, yeah, I can do that. And they're like, all right, cool. All right, bye. And then they took off. And that was like that. And that's where that came from. And I was trying to, because I knew the city. I'd been to it, like the city of Centurion. I think it has a name. I don't think it's called Centurion, but I can't remember it. But I was thinking, and I might have been wrong. I might have been right. I didn't get the chance to find out. But I was hoping that this woman I know that lived in a certain tower, like that I had kind of like a relationship with, that, yeah, I was hoping that she would be there and that I could, randomly show up on her doorstep and be like, hey, here I am. Let's get it on. Like, you know what I mean? That's what the song's about. So, yeah, that's literally what that song was about.
Centurion 5, this planet that you're talking about, this is not the same Centurion that John Whitberg is.
No, it can't be because it's not a Dyson sphere. I remember colonizing it.
Okay. Where is it located? Also in the Alpha Centauri?
The Antares region.
Antares region.
Antares.
Okay.
It's connected to there. Antares. It's connected to that area.
Whose colony is this?
There's Germans, there's Americans, there's Italian, and there's Polish, and there's French. It's shared. They call it Joint Navy Space Fleet. Is the one who owns it.
Joint Navy Space Fleet. Wow.
Yes, which is
so it's military.
Yes, Joint Navy Space Fleet.
Okay.
Which is they probably have another name for themselves when they're not for the planet and their governance. That's probably not what they call it. But yeah, it's the same group. Joint, and they call themselves Joint Navy Space Fleet, and it's it's the Germans here, like the Germans that are like right now, like it's not
Germans on Earth.
It's like different, like the Germans that actually do work with the Americans and stuff like that, if I'm recalling correctly, because there isn't any animosity or anything like that. So the story of Centurion is, and I know because I was there for the beginning and the end. I lived multiple lives on this planet. It was colonized through time travel. There's a species that was originally supposed to live on it, and they're pretty xenophobic, and they just kind of kept to themselves, but they're also able to protect their planet, so everyone just kind of left them alone. And there's an aspect where this planet is hard to find, and the details are kind of blurry. I think it's some sort of natural phenomenon in space that serves as a sort of natural cloak or something like that. Or it might be a temporal thing too, where like it literally phases in and out of space. I forget what there's going on where like it's hard to find, and that's part of the reason why it worked for what the Joint Navy Space Fleet wanted it for. That's part of the reason why it's a perfect place. Is what was going on was there was a battle in the future, and they got their asses handed to them, and they were trying to figure out how they could change it through time travel to make it so that they didn't get their asses handed to them, and they won. And they figured, well, they should have if they could get like a outpost somewhere nearby, and have it be like on the sly where the enemy didn't realize it, that would give us a huge advantage, and we could maybe win. Right. And then the Illyrians were living there, and like the Admiral Akbar from Star Wars, you can show it on the screen. That guy. That's what they look like, except their eyes are more forward and their heads are skinnier. That's a human wearing like a prosthetic mask, so they did what they could with that. But like that's what the Illyrians are look like that, and those people from Star Wars are based on the Illyrians. Like they have to
Illyrians, yes.
Yeah, and the planet Centurion actually should be called Ilaria. Centurion 5 should actually be called Ilaria because it's their planet. It's where they come from. they showed up and take it. It's fucking actually Ilaria, not Centurion 5. I really should stop calling it Centurion 5. It's actually Ilaria. Like just because we came in and stole it and called it ours now doesn't mean that it is, right? Like, but that's what happens. That's my whole thing is like I'm trying to explain to people is that's what we do in space. We're colonizers and we're the bad guys, and that's why aliens don't want to talk to us. It's because we're the bad guys.
So, but
we eventually we win this battle to stay on track. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Eventually, they win this battle in the future, and before that, it's just a military outpost planet, which is common. So many of them, and once they win the battle, they turn it into a resort planet, basically.
Oh, okay. Now I see.
Basically, for like rich elite who are famous to where when they go out in public, they'll get like blocked and stuff like that. And they don't want that. It's a planet for where the gods among men, if you will, can walk around and not be ogled at. That's what it's designed.
Oh, I see. So who did you see there that's famous here on Earth?
Janis Joplin.
Oh, okay.
Obviously Dennis Pop, Max Martin.
Dennis Pop, who supposedly died in '98, right?
Yeah. There's a version of him still alive for sure.
I see.
People have been to the studio. Kanye West.
Wow.
Yeah, Kanye West has been there. Donda album. Worked on the Donda album. And probably more, but I remember that specifically. And yeah, he sacrificed his mom and stuff. I'm gonna be real. This organization is dark. Like I'm watering it down. Like, yeah, I have fond memories of. Make sure to keep this in the video interview too. Yeah, I have fond memories of them and stuff like that. But I also have memories of being raped, and I also have memories of other people being raped. And I also I know that this is like dark. Like this is a dark thing that they were doing. Like Kanye West sacrificed his own mother to be part of this little cult that they have going. It's evil. It's satanic. And I really am going to make sure for the rest of the interview to refrain from gaslighting myself about the evil nature of Ordo Templum Nephilim and the Church of the Holy Ghost Rider, just because I have some fond feelings about Max Martin and Dennis Pop. The reality is the organization is without a doubt dark.
I see.
But yeah, where were we at?
The Nephilim part. Did you see any live Nephilim or any like pictures or anything refer to them, like who they are? If not,
I remember going to a temple, but it's all really blurry. And I don't really remember.
You remember the temple, yes?
Yes, there is some sort of temple that they actually go to, a literal physical temple.
Is it on the ground somewhere or?
Yeah, but it's not on Earth. It's on some other planet, and it's very few people can go there.
I see.
But yeah, there's an actual temple, and I'm pretty sure there's 9. There's 9 of the Nephilim. One is the leader, and then the other 8 are their voters, but the leader is the deciding vote if they're split. And
the Nephilim being what?
Memories back as I'm talking to you, it's becoming clearer. There's 9 of them, and the Nephilim are just like, if you listen to Penny talk about the Zahami, it's the same thing.
Zahami? I see.
It's the same thing, and they're basically humanoids, and they're taller and bigger, but kind of wraith-like and skinnier. But their skin can change colors and stuff like that.
Right.
Those are the guys. There's 9 of them, and they're in charge of the whole thing.
Do you remember anyone else in the studio or in the organization who is known or famous or stuff? Like who would be running it? I mean, with them, because you said that Max Martin would be like a front guy, more or less, in the music industry.
Yeah, I remember being left alone there for years, dude. Years. Yes, 20 backs, dude. It'd be a 20 back. Yeah, I've done multiple of them. 20 years where you're kept the same age. You just hang out. Literally, all you fucking do, period, at all, period, is just make music. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's kind of like heaven for me in a way. That's part of the reason why I signed up for it. I love making music and I'm good at it. And it's but it just sucks that all the evil has to be there too, you know? I don't like that part of it.
Okay.
And also not being allowed to see people for so long and not being allowed to leave. That part sucked.
Okay.
But they did allow people to visit me, and I did work with people. And like I said, I worked with, Kanye West, and I remember him
So that-
being in the studio.
Uh-huh.
And I know there are others, but I just don't really remember it very well. But for
Okay.
some reason, Kanye West stuck out to me. I think it was, I know why, is because when he started having his kind of like public meltdowns and talking about like conspiracies and stuff like that, like I was going through some shit at the same time, and it kind of helped trigger the memories of him. So yeah, I know there's way more than just Kanye. They're like famous people that exist in the here and now, but I think that's the reason why he's the one that actually sticks out and I can remember him. And also, he's just so openly like satanic, I guess, Illuminati. Like he literally says he literally openly says he sacrificed his mother. They killed his mother. He performs with a burning effigy of his house suspended above the stage, like all sorts of weird shit. Like he recorded the Donda album on record. They say he recorded it at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Did you know that? And he paid $1 million like a week or a day or something like that to record there.
Okay.
It's just because of the portals and because of the energy there.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, that's the reason why they hold the events that they hold there, is to siphon the energy. So there's a like, I don't know how it all works, because as you can see there's also like this music is made off world, but then there's also people who work on it in the here and now, and there's so much of it that even I'm a little bit confused about, like the chicken and the egg kind of thing. Like where does it start? Where does it end? Like a lot of this stuff gets really confusing with the time travel and
okay,
everything else. Like,
so for Britney, do you remember the songs that you wrote for her?
Hit Me Baby One More Time, and You Call Me Crazy, and then she helped me write Lucky.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't even know who got credited for that song, but she helped me. Let's look. I just want to look it up real quick, actually, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Because I bet she didn't get credit for it, because it's about her and how sad she was. Yeah, she didn't get credited. Yeah, yeah, I think I wrote her. Yeah, I remember writing that song with her, and Bax Martin and 2 other guys got credited for it, and then yeah, and a part of it too was collaborative, like I said, because they wanted me to do the melody and the hooks of the song, and so it's not like they didn't do anything. It's not like they sat around and I did all the work and played all the instruments. It wasn't like that. They were musicians and they're part of the songwriting process too. But I provide the melodies. As far as that phase, when I was literally a child on Earth on Chiron Studios, but on Centurion, I was kept in my 20s, 25 years old.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just working on music, and so some of it was by myself, but some of it was with Lyle Graves. Like, I think at least one, probably multiple of the 20 and backs was with Ghost Effects.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's probably done 20 and backs by himself too, without me, I can only imagine.
Amazing. So Hit Me Baby One More Time. Is there a story behind it that you remember?
Yeah, they were torturing me and hitting me. They're beating me. They're basically beating me, and they told me to sing about it, and if I came up with a hit, they would stop. I know it sounds insane, like what, they're just like beating this kid and making him sing, like it sounds fucking crazy, but like that's what I remember happening. And when I look into it and find Dennis Pop talking about portals casually and solar flares and MP3s before they ever existed, and it makes me realize it's real. Like, it is real. And I found a lot of different weird stuff, like a lot of evidence when I start looking into the songs and where they come from. And then also just some of the songs, like the lyrics and the imagery in the music videos, like they're literally showing. Another thing that's interesting about that song too is, I mean, you've got a 16-year-old girl with a song about being hit during sex. And their excuse for it, what they said was, "Oh, hit me on the phone, hit me up on the phone, and we just shortened
Yeah.
it." No, bro, you know exactly what you're doing with this song. One thing I'll say too, like, okay, this is one thing I'll explain to help you understand it with the songs is, like I said, so multiple 20 in backs, stuff like that, and it all gets confusing. And I can remember alternate futures, and one of the futures that I remember is like when this all comes out, and I get a binder that lists all the songs I wrote, and that takes me like a while to process, like a few months, because like I would say about 60 to 70% on the songs on the list are songs that I had heard my whole life and felt no emotional connection to whatsoever.
Yeah.
No emotional attachment to at all. I had no clue I wrote them. Like I found out recently I wrote Jimmy Eats World. It just takes some time and a little in and bit out the line. Fellow Montauk Time Soldier told me that they remember how I would play that song to a certain kid to cheer them up. And that's what I wrote it for.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, like, so like, and I remember it now because they say it, but like my whole life, like that, like I've heard that song again in the here and now, like recently, and I was like, oh, I wrote this song, like Eureka moment, like, so that's kind of for me, like the tragedy of this is like, maybe I did write that song, I don't know, but for me, I don't remember doing it, so I don't want to take credit for it.
I see. About the Eurodance songs, Chiron worked a lot with, all the famous hits from the 90s. Just to reference saying that Max Martin is credited for like probably 10 or 15, biggest hits, pop song hits of all time. And Chiron worked with E-Type. So E-Type is, a big one. If you listen to their album, it's all about like basically super soldier stuff and how they experience things, how they process these feelings, and how they have to go on because they have no choice. About the Eurodance, do you have any specific names that?
Rhythm of the Night. Rhythm is a dancer, which is Rhythmusstanzer, which is a German word, and it was written in German. All those songs were written in German on a German breakaway colony by one of my authors named Hans. When I recall, I think it's a moon, and there's a huge city on it, and I DJ'd in a nightclub, and I wrote a lot of those songs for the nightclub, and then a lot of them ended up on Earth through the military.
Wow. Rhythm is a dancer, and there is a third one that we didn't name. It's also with the rhythm something.
Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Sweet Dreams of Rhythm and Dancing.
Right? Yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
Okay. And
I actually looked into that, and Lane McRae is credited for Sweet Dreams of Rhythm of Jansen, I think, or something like that. And one of those songs. And he's connected to the Air Force, and he was stationed in Germany. And really weird. Like I realized I wrote that song, and I looked into it, and I found out Air Force connections right away, and it was just like that was kind of mind blowing to me.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, you never came across in the programs.
He's ancient. He's involved in ancient Egypt. Yeah, ancient Egypt. Reincarnation of someone from ancient Egypt. That's important.
Okay.
Same thing with Tupac. Yeah, him too. Tupac and Michael Jackson are part of Project Ibis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which
I see.
I'm kind of interested in bringing that up to John and seeing what he remembers about that.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they split us into different groups with the Project Ibis.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Teams,
you were there too?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Oh.
Yeah, and Emmerman's my father.
All right. Okay.
Me and John have the same father. Do you know that? Me and John are half brothers.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it. Crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah.
All right. This was really cool. Sorry for bringing up some things that you wouldn't want to remember too much.
Well, that's a lot of it, and like I said, it's hard for me to deal with this because how much of me, and feel free to leave this in the interview, how much of me was a victim, and then with these new memories that I got, how much of me was 100% aware, and how guilty am I? these are questions that I have to ask myself, and I don't have the answers yet.
Behind many of the seemingly joyful pop hits coming out of Sweden, there's always been something darker going on. An element of melancholy. Even ABBA's Waterloo was about surrendering to a relationship that you didn't necessarily want to be in. Maybe that's what makes these songs so appealing. There's something a little more complex than we tend to give them credit for.
That hint of melancholy that you can hear in a lot of Swedish hit music, if you will, mainly comes from our living conditions, this fact that we live in this dark, cold country way up north.
'Cause I want it that way.
Today we're doing part 2 of our music episode. Just a couple of days before we decided to meet, Arkheim told me that he had some new memories about this cult come back to him. So this is going to be interesting. Okay, so just to start, what is this Order Temple of Nephilim? Is this like an official organization? Is it like ultra secret?
Have you ever seen the movie Midsummer? There's a movie called Midsummer, and it's like
I've heard of it.
It's about these Americans that go to this Swedish town that's like in the middle of nowhere, and these people are all in a cult. And at first it seems like, oh, these people are whimsical, it's cool, whatever, but then it gets weird. And it's like similar to that, like very like occult, like pagan, like kind of like beliefs like involved in this. Moloch is involved, I remember that. Like, and I'll be clear about the Moloch stuff, and a lot of it is I was a child. And what they would do is they would, my first involvement with Ordo Templum Nephilim was as a child, and I would wake up at a cloning facility, and this guy would basically be there to bring me to the recording studio. And yeah, the recording studio is Chiron Recording Studios is what it was called, which is connected to Max Martin and Dennis Pop.
Okay.
Responsible.
Huge names. Yeah.
Huge names, yeah, responsible for so many hit songs, and there's a reason for that.
My name is Dennis Pop. This here is Max Martin, and we're one of the producer crews behind Ace of Base on the new album.
As a songwriter, he's topped only by John Lennon and Paul McCartney for the most #1 hits of all time.
Dennis Pop has been dead for quite a while, but he's involved in time travel stuff. And there's actually an interview that I'll send to you that we'll hopefully include in this with Dennis Pop, where, yeah, like planes are going to be obsolete. Like, why would you use a plane? You walk through a portal.
Man måste vara teleporter, som det heter på spacespråk. Det tycker jag vore så man slipper åka ut till Arlanda och sitta och vänta och checka in och såna här.
The way it works is like these idols that people worship, that's who they're looking at. They're not looking at Dennis Pop. So he's, even though he's extremely well known and extremely famous, he's also not. Same thing with Max Martin. But yeah, I would get brought there to work on music with them, and as a little boy, and they called me the boy who sings. And it's really hard for me, these memories, because I do believe that they were doing some weird sexual rituals and stuff like that involving me. But the memories are really blurry. And they're doing that with Britney as well. And I think kind of the whole thing is, and like I said, it's all really disjointed, but I think I'm right here when I say it, that they have clones of everybody. And that's why it's called Chiron Studios. It's like Chiron was a Greek god that longed for death. He was like a healer, but he couldn't die. Like he was wounded, but he couldn't die. And so I think that's why they call it Chiron Studios. And I would get taken to sing melodies and help them make songs there. Probably because of the fact that I'm one of the pantheon of gods, the Egyptian gods. It's part of it too, part of the ritualistic aspect of why they would do that. But they would like, so I'd wake up in this cloning tube, and this guy would be like, "Hey, do you remember me?" You know, every time he'd be like, "No," and then he'd be like, "Oh, okay, good." And he always found it really humorous that I didn't remember him, and they would bring me there, and like, I'd work on the song, and it was in this like other room. And like, I remember they'd be like doing drugs and stuff like that. And, you know, it's like one of those things where it really doesn't take like 8, 12 people to work on a song. Like, I think that's just how they split the money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's like the ritual aspect of it to have them there. And then you had this thing called the red light. Dennis popped it and you can see in documentaries and stuff like that. Like, there's a red light.
The hit light?
Yeah, the hit light. And that was connected to he said, "Oh, it's going off. It's a hit. That's why it's going off, whatever." But it's like, no, it was connected to the rituals that were happening underneath the facility that had clones of people who were up there and were a part of the songs. So it's like a really weird, bizarre thing. And that's a thing that they use all the time that I've talked about. It's not just limited to the music industry. Like, you know, I talk about Appleton, Wisconsin, where I'm from, and they have clones of everybody underneath the surface. And like the movie Us kind of shows what it's like, and they can kind of use them to control us, like voodoo dolls in a way. And there's just all this weird black magic, I guess, stuff you could say going on with it, where it's like you're connected. Even though you might not be like aware of it on a conscious level, like you're connected to all your clones. Like if there's a clone in you, your consciousness is in that clone too. And so they use that. And one thing I remember too is like I don't really remember extremely well like the other guys. I'm sure I ran into them, but I do remember like Britney Spears. Okay. And I remember that she when I would come in there, she'd say hello to me and remembered me, and I didn't remember her. And at first, she thought I was joking and playing around with her, but then eventually she realized that, like, oh, I actually really didn't remember her, and I think things slowly got worse and worse for her, and that's why she shaved her head and stuff like that. And that was not like her going crazy. That was her saying to her controllers, "Okay, how these programs really work with Ordo Temple Nephilim. It's connected to Disney. It's connected to Nickelodeon. It's connected to these programs.
The Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah, the Mickey Mouse Club. Yeah, it's connected to parents who what they would do is they would sign their kids away to these corporations who are countries." By the way, Disney is a country. So they're signing their child away to a country, adopting their child away to a country. And what they would talk about in these meetings with the family is, okay, so your daughter's going to be a star, but what you need to understand, and we're using Britney Spears as an example, who her name was Gabriella. And I can't remember her last name, but her name is not, that's her real name, Gabriella, not Britney. And they brought her parents in and like, yeah, your daughter has all of it, can be famous, but we're going to let you in some secrets on how this industry really works, and we need to sign some non-disclosure agreements before we can move forward. And the parents like, non-disclosure agreements? It's just, it's just industry secret stuff we won't want our competitors to know about because we have an edge on them, and that's just that kind of thing, you know. Like they reassure them, and it's like, oh, okay, so they signed the non-disclosure agreement, which brutal repercussion if you talk about anything that happens in that room after that. And basically, the contract says that, like, yeah, we're gonna give your daughter a new name, like, you know, they're gonna wear certain clothes, like they're gonna wear the clothes we tell them, they're gonna wear their hair the way, the styles we tell them, the shoes, like everything about them. We're gonna, who they hang out with, everything is controlled. There's an image that they have to exude, and they just kind of explain, like, yeah, this is how it works. Like, we curate everything, every aspect of it, and yeah, we're even gonna give them new parents, new cool hip parents that aren't you. And but don't worry, we're gonna take care of them. And once they turn 18, you'll be able to see them as much as you want again. That's what they tell them. But the reality is they sheep dip them, so they like actually do give them a new personality. That's like a clandestine term, like a black ops term for like giving somebody a new identity, erasing their old identity. They actually would do that, but they wouldn't just do it figuratively. They'd do it literally. They would brainwash the parents, maybe kill them. I don't really have all the answers. I don't know the details. All I know is they would get rid of them, however where they would, with implanted memories or what, pay them a lot of money. I'm not sure, but they get rid of them. And yeah, same thing with, you know, Britney or all these other people, that they give them new artificial memories, artificial lives. Their parents are their handlers, and it's all Ordo, Temple, and Nephilim making tons and tons and tons of money off them singing and performing. And then there's the aspect of it where they have clones of them, and high-paying suitors can pay to spend time with them. And basically, so there's a sexual slavery aspect to Ordo, Temple, and Nephilim, where they're making, where they have high-paying suitors that can pay to spend time with these individuals, but also they're making pornography that's on the black market with Britney Spears, what have you, I'm sure people these days now, these videos are old, and I'm sure people go counter them on the on the dark web. And back in the day, people were just probably like, where is this, like, how is this real? Because you'll see them get killed and stuff like that too in some of these. And like,
oh wow,
walking around and stuff. Yeah. Some of them are snuff films. So it's like, yeah, but like now they'll probably just say, oh, it's AI. And you know, that's even with Frazzle Drip, Hillary Clinton. They're already saying that it's AI. Now they're saying it's AI. Before they said doesn't exist. Now they're saying it's AI. That it was AI generated. But these videos are real, and I'm here to tell you that. And one of the things that Ordo Temple, as far as I know, because my memories of all this stuff are blurry, but as far as I can tell, Ordo Temple and Nephilim is involved in like really weird pornography, where like there'll be like centaurs, cherubs, like really beautiful women that actually had real angel wings coming out of their backs.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like stuff like that. Like they make really high end fucking shit. And it's really, really expensive. And I, you know, I've talked about this with people before. Like, I truly wonder how many people realize that like aliens and stuff are real, because they have really bizarre, like dark, like pornographic tastes. And they find it on the dark web. Like, I wonder about that. Like, I'm sure it happens. Like, I don't go on the dark web, but I just know, like, there are people buying this stuff. I know it's filmed. I know I know it's being circulated. And so, like, when people say there's no proof, well, you're entering a Frazzle Drip scenario, because nobody really wants to look at the proof. It's illegal to look at the proof. It's literally illegal to look at the proof. So, yeah, that's just an interesting aspect of it too, is the fact that all of these stars, which just goes back to like Michael Jackson, and it's not, you know, not new, but like, yeah, they're all being basically like, there's a sexual slavery component to it, and a ritualistic sex aspect, where like a big common thing with Ordo Temple Nephilim and a lot of the hit songs that people love is they'll have they cut a woman, she starts bleeding, they put her in a glass, 7 guys in robes with these like plague doctor masks on.
Oh, okay.
Like, drink it. They drink it. They drink it, and then they pass it to you, and it's kind of all blurry. I think that they all have sex with the woman first, or I join them after we drink the blood, or we all have sex with her before the blood. But the thing that I do remember is then what they do a lot with me is that I'm fucking the girl, and as she climaxes, as she orgasms, there's a guy with an axe, and he cuts her head off as she's orgasming, and they put that into the music, that like energy.
And they do that either during or before they record, right?
I think it's during.
Okay.
And Ordo Temple of Nephilim is like ancient, and it's of course connected to the Nephilim. I know that like there's human faces towards it, to it for the most part that I dealt with, but behind the scenes there's like the Nephilim that are really in charge of it, and that's who they're worshiping. And those are like the big dogs of the group is the Nephilim. So yes, the music and entertainment industry is literally controlled by aliens. To all the people who have suspected that, who have felt that in their gut, that it literally is controlled, and a lot of it's mind control, of course. And the memory that I got though, this is fast forward. So the stuff that happened when I was a child, you know, like I said, I'd wake up, they'd use me, we'd make a song or whatever. I think there was a ritualistic aspect where they would do the ritual to me too, where they would, you know, kill me, like in a sexual ritual. Like, it's hard for me to say because like the memories are really unclear, and I have feelings of like brotherhood kind of with Max Martin. Not really Dennis though, but I feel like it's maybe one of those things where even if you're in a weird abusive relationship, sometimes you get along with the person who's your abuser, right? So like take that with a grain of salt. But also like the last thing I'd want to do is like say stuff about like these guys that's like not true and have it come out that I was wrong. But like as far as I can tell you guys, like I'm gonna be real and really upfront. Like as far as I can tell, they're Satanists. That's how they met. Ordo Temple of Nephilim is like, you know, I guess Satanism is like a blanket term now. It's dark magic. They weren't really worshiping Satan. They were worshiping like Baphomet and Moloch and stuff like that. And but like it's a cult, and you know they use the music. They opened up a portal with the music, and they started using the music as like a way to like garner power. And they became part of Ordo Temple Nephilim, which is controlling the music industry through time travel and creating the music industry through time travel. And so obviously my alter Jacob was a part of the Montauk project and understands how the music industry works, and he understands how it's all done through time travel. And if you really want to get in there and really be one of the big dogs that matter, you need to be part of their little club. And it's kind of fucked up, but that's what it is. And you know, the Ordo Temple Nephilim, as far as I can tell, was also Jacob, that same altar that was being used. He's the musical one, so it would only make sense. And I have this friend, and you know the irony, they call us assets, they call us ghosts. And I'm not going to use his real name. I'm going to use his which was his stage name for a bit, Lyle Graves. And he called himself Ghost Effects, which you can still find some of his music, but he had like a, I'm going to be real and just upfront about it, and I'm not trying to talk bad about him, but he had a mental breakdown and like deleted all his music off the internet. So like you can't find most of it anymore, but some of it's there. But yeah, he won his Ghost Effects, and I made music with him in my hometown of Appleton, and we were just he was just like a really like a musical genius. Like he lived with me for a little bit, and you know he'd wake up or start working on music as soon as he'd wake up, and he'd literally fall asleep working on music at the computer, and I'd have to like hit the space bar to pause it, and then you know I'd wake up to him first thing in the morning. He's working on music, and this guy just pumps out songs, and they're all incredible. And we made music together. We had this little project that we started, and then he disappeared for like years, just disappeared. And then one day he just shows up on my porch, like during the Mile Music Fest in my hometown, and he's like, yeah, man, like I'm tired of working at Walmart, like like I want to be a professional musician. And I'm like, I'm doing music kind of like full time at this point. And we start working on music again. And it was at the beginning of 2020. So from what I recall, and this is the memory that I got back like literally like 3 or 4 days ago, is like I used to think, and I've talked about it in interviews, and this is where I can rectify and say that I guess things happened a little bit different than I originally remembered. What I remembered is that like we got kidnapped and like taken to these guys, and like what I thought happened, and I have discovered that that's not what happened. I kept on talking to him. My alter kept on calling out Jacob. I told him like he's everything. I told him all this. I'm an author. My name is Jacob. I told him all of it, and I told him that if you ever tell my cover author about all this stuff that we're doing, I'll kill you with my bare hands, and I'll get away with it. So I told him I'll fucking kill you, and I'm not kidding. Oh, just as soon as you start telling me about it, I'll fucking kill you. I will wake up. I'll activate, and I'll murder you. So don't tell him about it. Don't even fucking try. Like, that was a threat, dude. I told him that. And I asked him one morning when I woke up, like it was me. I woke up as Jacob. And I was just like, so you really want this, buddy? You want to be a big shot? You want the whole world to hear your music? You want to be famous, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I do. And, like, I could tell he was scared. He was like, what's going on? Who the fuck is this guy? And I'm like, all right, well, it's a full moon tonight. If you're serious about this, we can do this, man. And I can show you what it's really like. We got to do a ritual, but it's gonna involve a contract that you have to make. And I'm gonna write up the contract, and you're gonna have to cut your hand, and you're gonna have to put blood on the contract in order to sign it. You don't sign it with your signature; you sign it with blood, drops of blood. And I told him we need all these materials. One of them being a mirror, and I was like, yeah, all right. And then we're going to go to the meadow tonight. It's a full moon tonight. And basically, I opened, it's blurry. But from what I can recall, I opened up that mirror. And then we stepped through that mirror and we were on like, this part of the memory I've talked about. It's real. Like it was like Max Martin and Dennis Pop. Like they greeted us. And like what I think with this memory is that I've been there on multiple occasions. Like, you know, like there's more than one time that they used me at Ordo Templum Nephilim. More than one. What do they call it? They call it something. When you're not a pilgrimage, patronage, not that. There's like a word, residency. You get a residency there, and it's supposed to be like a privilege or whatever. Like, but it's also kind of fucked up. Like, but like, yeah, I all I know is like the details are blurry, but like the whole idea that like we were victims and we got tricked into this, I'm realizing is maybe a bit of a fallacy, and that my altar was covering it up, and that both Ghost and I willingly walked into this, willingly did this, knew what we were doing. And yeah, and I can explain, like, when you got to the studio, like, Dennis Pop will, like, show you, like, this is TH1389D5B or something like that. And it's this powder stuff. And you're like, what, you're trying to party? What is this stuff? And it's like, no, he's like, it hooks up your brain to the computer. And so, yeah, you're hooked up to this with a computer, and like your mind is like telepathically linked to it. You can move the sounds around with your mind. If you don't like the way the cadence of a sound is, like, you can actually change it, like with your mind, or even just plan out whole songs with your mind, like. And so that's a big aspect of it. And yeah, it's on Centurion 5, the recording studio that they use for most of the stuff. Maybe they have more than one, but I remember the one that I used was on this like mountain on Centurion 5, and overlooking like a valley, which in the distance of that you can see this like a city, like a mega city in the distance. And, yeah, it's like in the middle of the jungle, so it's hard to get to, like, because it's like that's how Centurion is. Like the cities are like protected by like a bubble fence thing, and Magna Leviton train that's underneath the ground, which makes it really easy for them to control movement there because it's dangerous to travel any other way. The forests have like dinosaurs and stuff like that in it.
Okay.
That's. I don't know if you have any questions. Sorry, I'm kind of just going on and on.
It's cool. So Order Temple of Nephilim. How did you find out that name? Did they call it that? Is there like a sign there or something?
I just remembered it.
Okay.
I just don't know how to explain it other than that. Like,
Okay.
I just remembered it.
All right.
Day, and I wrote it down, and I figured out that it's the same thing as this time cult.
You would wake up in a facility there with clone capsules and stuff, right?
Yeah. That's like the first times that I was there as a child, and then like I think that it eventually developed into me being able to go there on my own free will. Hence the whole thing with Lyle Graves, Ghost Effects, and bringing him in there. But like, yeah, I think there's some of it's like me being unaware and taken there. And yeah, I think that's the explanation. There's a little bit of both going on, and I also suspect that they might use more than one altar because I know Jacob is very musical, but I also have another altar named Hans who's musical, the German altar, and he's made a lot of like Euro dance music. So, I can only like imagine that they've probably used more than one altar, but yeah, they also are kind of open about the Church of the Holy Ghost Rider. Which people can look into that. It's super weird. And if you know about the Ordo Temple of Nephilim aspect of it, like the joke falls a lot more flat. It doesn't seem like a joke. Like that's what they do with a lot of stuff. They present it's like, oh, haha. But it's like, no, like really, like they have this whole thing they do where they're like telling you like there's ghost writers writing all these songs. They like really telling you.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting aspect. You're saying that they have a front organization called the Church of the Holy Ghost Rider. And then this order is kind of an unknown, right? You have to get to it like by invitation. You don't know about it, right? And so, for example, when you would wake up, you say, and you would meet Brittany there, that would be in Sweden in the Chiron studios, right? So she would be at the Chiron studios and you would be brought there. And she would not
an underground way to bring me there to where they wouldn't have to bring me on the surface.
Right. And then you would go up to the surface where Brittany, they would just work on music as normal, right?
Yeah, but they're also very openly sexual towards her in the recording studio. But more or less just working on music with her, though.
I see.
This is part of the business, is what a lot of these women think, and unfortunately, that's the way it's been for years until like the Me Too thing happened, and that seems to be changing.
Okay. Yeah, because there are like photographs with Max Martin sitting with Brittany at an old like 90s computer working on the music. So I was wondering like, so that's one aspect. We have like two levels, right? One level is like the surface where there's like a studio people can go to. Everybody knows about it. It's called Chiron Studios. And then there is a level underground somewhere where there is all this weird stuff going on. Right?
Yeah, well, the underground is where the sexual ritual is happening, but I was up there with them, working on the songs with them. And there was a room that they would go in. There was a room that they had that wasn't right there with the computers and stuff like that. And they would go in there to like, and for me it was melody. They had me come up with a melody. You'll hear Max Martin say, I always start the song with a melody. Melody is like, don't start with the chord progression. Don't start with start with a melody. If you build a song on a melody, that's key, like to making a hip hop song. As he talks about that, and they would use my melodies, probably because I'm a musical deity of some sort or some weird. There's a lot about my stuff I don't understand, but they literally look at me as some sort of deity, musical deity.
Okay, so this part, this part, you say that they think, at least they believe, that you are a reincarnation of some Egyptian god, right?
Yeah, of some sort. Which
from
what I understand, Arkheim Ra, who I know is confusing, but Marduk deleted me from history. I'm not in history anymore.
So this deity, Arkheim Ra, is what you're calling yourself right now. Used to be a real being that lived on Earth, right?
Yeah, there were statues of me and everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I found them in some like old world Tartarian books where it shows Egypt and it shows the statues, and it's not like Thoth or like any of these other guys.
Oh, cool.
It's like literally a bird person. Like, yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's me.
All right, cool. Okay, and so they take you because of that, because they at least they believe. I don't know if you believe it, but
same thing with I think that there's an aspect of that too with John Whitberg, because he's a songwriter,
yeah,
who was in the programs, and he was Sobek. So I think there's an aspect where they and then look at all their music videos too. I saw the sign, so much Egyptian stuff in there.
Yes.
Also
Ace of Base, of course.
Yeah. Katy Perry, Dark Horse. There's I could go on and on. If I was smart, I would have gotten a list together and went on for 5 minutes of all songs that they put all this Egyptian symbolism into. You know what I mean?
And you're saying that Chiron Studio had a secret room where they would still do the rituals on the surface, right? It's not like an underground thing.
Yeah, it wasn't really secret, but it was more like, so they were doing coke and stuff in there. So the idea was, it's kind of like the forbidden room in a way, and people didn't know there was anything more than that going on there. But from what I recall, there was, and they were doing some, P-file stuff to me. From what I recall, they were doing some of that. So
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So now about the altar aspect. When you talk about Britney, for example, do you think she was? Do you think she has altars? First of all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
so do you think that when they would do stuff to her, would this be in an altar? Would they activate her as an altar and do things?
I think she has like a sex kitten altar and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But some clientele don't want them to be. They want them to be scared and not want it. So
right. Yeah.
But but
so it depends, right?
Altars, and she's in the programs and she's an asset and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.